So here's an update. You remember back in sometime in the distant past how I was trying to treat that rust that was underneath the windscreen on the Troopy, and I thought I'd done a reasonable job, but it really wasn't that good, to be honest, and it's all come back with a bit of a vengeance, which is not surprising. Rust never sleeps. However, it's time for it to get some professional help, and so I've just dropped it off this morning at a panel shop, and they're going to pop the windscreen and clean it up, and if it's going to need some work, well, at least do it. At least I hope they are. Now, the reason that I say that is that you never know what you've got until you actually reveal what it is that you're dealing with. And, sometimes popping the screen out may discover that it's not much worse. It also may be much better than you think too, but if it's much worse, it may be a job they might say, well, we can't do that or whatever, because panel shops these days are not really panel beaters. They're more kind of parts replacement organisations. Now, certainly they can do some work, chassis straightening or frame straightening or whatever, and painting and stuff like that. But in terms of rust repairs or even panel repairs, in terms of dents, they're generally not that good, because I think a lot of those skills have died out. Plus, of course, there's the very high cost of labour these days. So whereas somebody might spend hours tapping away on a panel, and you've seen me do it with the bumper on the bus, for example. But when you add up all of the cost of those hours of that labour at that charge out rate, so someone may be earning, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks an hour, but the shop has to charge it out at 100 bucks or 120 bucks an hour or more, because that's the cost of the workshop. The person's wages alone aren't the total cost, because there's also the premises and the electricity and the cost of just doing business, whether that's licensing or business registration or insurance or whatever it might be. And as you know, the highest cost to a business are really those first couple of things. One is labour or people, and the second is their rent, the cost of being there. So they've got to add all of those costs in, and if you spend $500 or $600 repairing a panel when you can bolt a new one on for $500 or $600, you're probably better off just doing the bolt-on part, simply because that takes an hour compared to 5 or 6 hours with the other, and someone spending 4 hours more than they really need to is not particularly productive. I'm just checking my speed here because we have to. Anyway, look, it's in the shop. They are going to get a windscreen place to come in, and they'll probably have to just cut the old rubber to get the windscreen out intact, because sometimes the windscreen can bust if you try and just push it out. And that's okay, they can just replace the rubber. They're not that expensive, a couple of $100, I suppose, to replace the rubber. He can then deal with the rust, assuming that he can. put the windscreen back in, and Bob's your auntie. And that actually happened to me with the other Troopy that I owned. There was a little bit of a rust stain appeared underneath the windscreen. This is almost mandatory, I think, on troop carriers, you know, as they have rust under the windscreen rubber. Don't ask me why, but they just do. And in that case, I had the windscreen replaced. So the windscreen place, popped out the windscreen, took it down to the panel shop sandblasted, painted. It wasn't that bad in that one because that was a much newer Troopy. Sandblasted and painted, took it back to the windscreen shop, and they replaced the windscreen rubber, replaced the windscreen, and good as gold. So let's hoping that we get a similar result with that. I just wanted to give you an update because I won't be doing anything with the Troopy for a couple of weeks while he has it in the shop. Obviously it's a bit of work. The windscreen's got to come out, repairs have got to be done, paint's got to be done, and I'll probably get it back in a couple of weeks. So meantime, let's focus on other stuff. Check out the video on the tractor, the TED20 Ferguson, and I've got some more content that I want to deliver on that. So I'll talk to you soon. Don't go anywhere just yet. This is the raw, by the way. It's just that I've got the air conditioning running and it's pretty noisy. There's a tiny little bit more to come, and that is that I've had a report from the repairer, but it's not the best. The damage is much worse than we thought. You're looking at a couple of photos of it, but in his words, nothing is unrepairable. It's just a matter of time and money. So we're committed to it. So I've given him the go-ahead, and he'll just carry on. Now look, to you or me, that may seem like it's insurmountable, but to a professional, they can fabricate and weld, and he said they do it a section at a time, so they don't just weld in one huge plate, but a section at a time, and shape and dolly and bang and crash, and then treat, seal, primer, spray, and then of course you've got to get the windscreen people back out again, of course, to fit the screen. And the screen didn't survive, did I tell you that? Someone had applied so much glue to it that it was impossible to kind of get out without actually exerting undue force, and that was enough to crack the screen, and that's fair enough. We kind of did think that that was a bit of a risk that we were taking, but anyway, it's done. There's the damage. There's nothing we can do about that other than get stuck in and fix it, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'll give you updates as I get them. Thanks for watching.